All right, so you want to dive into these Arista Networks earnings? Everybody's talking about them.
Yeah, they really crushed it this quarter.
They did.
Those numbers are eye-popping.
I mean, almost $1.7 billion in revenue.
Yeah, right? Like $1.69 billion to be exact.
It's impressive.
It really is.
And their stock is up over 100% this year.
Which, yeah, looking at those numbers alone, it's impressive. But when you look at what's actually driving it,
right?
This is not just about selling more switches or anything like that. They're riding this massive wave
of
AI adoption.
Yeah. Remember that $750 million AI revenue target for 2025 we talked about? I mean, this is
happening right now.
It is happening right now.
It's not some far-off, distant goal.
No.
This is playing out as we speak.
They're already working with some of the biggest companies.
Huge players.
In the cloud space, in the AI space.
And these aren't small deployments. We're talking about hundreds of GPUs. Transitioning to tens of thousands in some cases.
Yeah. It's mind-blowing, the scale.
It's really incredible, the scale they're operating on.
This is where this whole AI center vision comes in.
Right.
What is that?
So Arista's making a big bet
on
this idea that as AI gets more and more powerful, the lines between what we traditionally think of as the front end and the back end of the data center are going to start to blur.
Because right now, there's still kind of like...
There's a clear distinction.
Yeah, like front end is like what you see.
This is how you interact with the applications,
the apps,
the interfaces, all that stuff.
And then the back end is like...
That's where all the magic happens behind the scenes.
All the data stored.
The processing and the heavy lifting.
Right.
And Arista's saying, as AI takes center stage, these two worlds, they need to become much more tightly integrated.
Interesting.
They're going to start to merge in a way to create this AI center, this central nervous system for everything AI.
So they're going to be like the nervous system.
That's the vision they're laying out.
Yeah. Wow. And they're positioning themselves as the architects of this of this whole new world.
They want to be more than just the plumbing. They don't want to just provide the building blocks. They want to design the entire ecosystem.
Interesting.
That makes AI work seamlessly and efficiently.
But that's all theoretical, right?
Well, not necessarily. I mean, Ashwin Kohli, their new chief customer officer, he gave some really interesting real-world examples.
During the earnings call?
Yeah, during their earnings call.
Like that tier 2 cloud provider.
Right.
That was having all those problems with their AI applications.
Exactly.
They were struggling. Their existing network couldn't handle it.
It just wasn't cut out for these really demanding AI workloads.
Right.
And Arista, they came in with a solution based on their high-speed 400 gig switches.
Okay.
And they've already mapped out a path to an even faster 800 gig AI Ethernet network.
Wow, so they're already thinking about
thinking ahead.
The next thing.
Absolutely.
But it's not just about speed, is it?
No, it's much more than that.
Because you could have the fastest network in the world.
Right.
But if it's too complicated to manage...
If you can't...
It's a nightmare.
Right. If it's too complex, it's a nightmare for IT managers.
They don't want another headache.
They already have enough headaches, right?
Yeah. So how are they tackling that complexity?
Well, they're all about simplicity, right? Like a unified experience.
Right.
So, for example, there's software Cloud Vision.
Yeah.
It gives companies this incredible level of visibility and control over their entire network.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter if we're talking about a massive data center or like a corporate campus. Or even like spread across the globe.
It can handle all of that.
Yeah, they're managing it all from one place.
That's slick.
It's pretty impressive.
And speaking of campuses,
you
know how everybody's got that network upgrade they've been putting off forever?
Right.
Turns out Arista's seeing a lot of interest from companies who are finally ready to
make the jump.
Bring their campuses into the modern era.
Modernize.
Faster speeds, better security, easier management, all that.
Yeah, it's tempting when you put it that way.
Right.
And especially for companies that are just tired of being locked into one vendor.
Right.
You know, Arista's approach is very appealing because their tech, it can be used across data centers, campuses, WANs.
Wide area networks.
Giving businesses that flexibility to choose what works best for them.
So you're not stuck with one thing.
You've got options.
That's huge.
It is, and it's not just them saying it,
Right.
They have the goods to back it up.
Like, how do we know?
Well, look at their customer satisfaction.
Okay.
They've got this thing called a Net Promoter Score.
Oh, yeah. NPS. I've heard of that.
Yeah. Have you ever...
It's like how likely you are to recommend something.
Right, exactly. It's basically a measure of how likely are you to recommend this company to a friend or colleague.
Right.
And Arista just revealed that their score hit a record high of 87 out of 100.
Wow.
That is incredibly high.
That's like unheard of to you.
Especially in the tech world, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Think about it.
People love to complain about tech.
Exactly.
So that is really impressive.
It is very impressive.
So they're not just winning over new customers. It sounds like they're turning them into...
raving fans.
Raving fans. Okay.
Yeah.
But let's switch gears for a sec and talk about the business side of things.
Okay.
How are they actually making money?
Right.
Especially with these AI deployments still kind of in the early stages.
Right, because that's a big question.
Yeah.
Because everyone's talking about the potential of AI, but it's still early days.
Right.
But their earnings call actually gave us some clues.
Okay.
So for starters, their gross margins have been exceeding expectations for 2 quarters in a row.
Which is not easy to do.
It's not easy to do.
Especially in this environment.
Especially in this environment.
So what's driving that?
Well, they're laser focused on managing costs.
Okay.
Being efficient.
Right.
Even while they're investing heavily in research and development.
Right, because you got to spend money to make money, as they say.
Exactly. It's a balancing act.
Yeah.
But they seem to have found a really good formula.
They're walking that tightrope.
They are.
But it can't be all sunshine and roses, right?
Yeah.
There's got to be some challenges out there.
Of course.
What are they?
Well, for one thing, like everyone else, they're dealing with supply chain issues.
Right.
Which are still impacting the entire tech industry.
Yeah, no one's immune to that.
Nobody's immune to it.
That's like the world's biggest game of whack-a-mole.
Right. You fix one thing and then another thing pops up.
Exactly.
And we can't forget about the potential for an economic slowdown.
Right.
I mean, that could definitely impact spending.
Yeah.
Even on things that are essential, like AI networks.
Right, because even if you need it,
right,
you might not have the budget for it.
Exactly. And, even if the economy stays strong, those initial AI deployments, they might have lower profit margins.
Oh, interesting.
Than their more established products.
Because they're newer.
It's like when you offer a discount to try to attract new customers.
Right.
Eventually, you need to start charging full price to see real profitability.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah, so while Arista's clearly in a strong position, there's still a lot of execution ahead of them.
Right.
And this is where their focus on software and services becomes even more important.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
We're talking about recurring revenue.
Recurring revenue, exactly.
The holy grail of business.
The holy grail, because they're not just selling boxes anymore. They're building this whole ecosystem of software and services that just keeps customers coming back for more.
And those are the things you need, right? Like network observability and security.
Exactly. Those are not going away anytime soon.
No.
Those are mission critical.
Yeah.
And, that actually brings us to kind of an interesting little detail that emerged recently.
Okay.
So Jay Shri Ulal, Arista's CEO, she sold a chunk of her stock.
Okay. And usually that's not a good sign. Right?
Yeah. It can be a little eyebrow raising at first glance.
Yeah.
You really got to look at the whole picture.
Okay.
So, she sold some shares, but she also exercised options to buy even more shares.
Oh, interesting.
At a much lower price, by the way.
So it's not just like a cash out?
No, it's definitely more strategic than that.
Right.
By exercising those options, she's basically like doubling down on her belief in the company.
Wow.
In the company's future. And this is all public information, by the way.
Yeah, of course.
But it's not always obvious when you just see those headlines like CEO sells stock.
Yeah, panic.
Right, exactly. But so she's putting her money where her mouth is.
Yeah.
Even though Arista's stock has been on an absolute tear this year.
Yeah, more than 100%.
It's incredible. So it makes you wonder, right?
It does.
Is Arista Networks, even though they've had this phenomenal performance, are they still undervalued?
Interesting.
Could this be a sign, like a little insider nod, that there's still room for this company to grow?
Wow. That is fascinating.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting thought to leave us with.
Yeah, a lot to ponder.
So if we're going to leave everybody with like a quick takeaway, people are busy, they're listening to this on their commute. What's the one thing you want them to remember about Arista Networks?
Arista is not just keeping pace with this AI revolution. They're building the infrastructure that's going to power it.
Wow.
From data centers to campuses to everywhere in between.
Yeah.
They're laser focused on speed, simplicity, reliability.
The things that matter.
The things that really matter.
What business is.
Exactly.
That's great.
They're building the tracks for this AI-powered train.
I love that.
To run on.
And it sounds like they're just getting started.
Yeah, just getting warmed up.
All right. Well, that is it for this deep dive.
It is.
Thank you to everybody for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
We had so much fun exploring this world of Arista Networks with you.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next time.
See you later.